think because music is also tied to culture and I guess certain demographics, people do believe that they should be in the streets thugging it out, no formalizing of any skill. And I used to be that person. Why should I do that? I know how to do this. But going to school taught me that you don't know everything. You don't.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Edit Undo podcast. We have got a very special guest today, our very first recording artist. Now, she's not just any old recording artist. Sandrahhh is a vocalist, rapper, songwriter, or you might just say a multidisciplinary creative. She's gone into the space of music production, having graduated in that discipline, as well as the music, the business of music as well, at the Boston Media House. So I'm very, very, very keen on this discussion today because, I have my own personal interest in the music space as an outside spectator. And so it's great to have someone who is actually there in the trenches doing the work, recording the music. So Sandrahhh, welcome to the show.
Yay, welcome. I know this is not the first time we're trying this, unfortunately, with South African load shedding and all of the obstacles, but we're here and we're ready.
True. I'm so excited to chat with you guys.
Definitely. It's going to be a great one, I'm sure. And especially because of the quality of the music. But we'll get to all of that lovely stuff a little bit later. I think where I'd like to start is, each person at some point in their life, has this sort of dream, whether it's about being on stage next to Jay-Z or Beyonce, or whether, maybe you've got a different interest, like maybe you want to be some, world-renowned artist or, whatever your creative poison of choice is. We kind of have this dream that we want to achieve when we're younger. And then eventually, life slaps us around a few times and we settle to accounting or going to work at a bank or something of that kind. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But I guess where I'd like us to start is how did you carry that dream from, the younger stages of life to where you are today? Like what actually pushed you and how did you sort of get to a stage where you kind of took this full time?
So it's, like you said, always been a dream of mine to be next to the superstars, to be a superstar myself, to really make my offering to the world something musical, something that people can relate to. And life did swing me around for a little bit at first. And I did go to school and study things that I thought would be more financially viable, more respected than, I'm an artist, because I guess we get a lot of flack for trying to pursue something that isn't really perceived as real. Yeah. It should be a hobby next to the real thing that you do. Yeah. And what pushed me, I guess, was me and my dream. I know that I can stand next to the heavyweights, and every heavyweight put in their time. And I guess I've put in my time and now we're here. And there's still so much further to go. I guess for me, it was just about sticking to what I really knew was for me, despite the pressures to conform.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. And I think anyone who sort of has to kind of take a less trodden path kind of gets to a point where they have to rely on themselves to find a way forward. I've told the story a number of times on the podcast, so I won't go into details, but it's definitely something that I can relate to. That sort of having to, just take a left turn into the bushes and find your way. And so maybe a question that I have, because for me personally, one of the things that helped me along the way is having like specific people that I looked up to along the journey, like whether it's a mentor or it's just someone who I'm sort of following online. Like, did you have anyone like that? Especially in the earlier stages before, you'd found your place. I'd say in the industry, like were there either people that encouraged you or people that sort of like you sort of had as a role model?
Definitely. The first person that comes to mind is my lecturer at Boston. He really made me believe that solidifying my skill and upskilling would be worth the time and the effort. My producer, Nash, he's someone who's just helped me get my grounding, start a good foundation. Sia, it's also known as 2 a.m., who I make music with. People who make music and people who are in the industry, I guess, inspire me the most because they understand it from a different perspective. I guess my mom as well, for sure. My mom sings as well.
Sure.
Okay.
She just obviously
Didn't know that. Wow.
But yeah, my mom would just hear me singing in the house and be like, yes, keep going, keep going. So things like that, I guess just everyone around me, myself as well. But if we're talking external influences, definitely the people in my immediate environment who do music and the people who've known and I've wanted to do this for a long time.
Yeah, sure. I think that's a very fortunate place to be in as someone that wants to pursue a more unconventional profession, so to say, because it can be very discouraging when you're surrounded with people, like you say, who don't see this as a professional career that you can pursue full time. Now, Sandrahhh, you've spoken a little bit about a few people that you're currently working with, but I just want to almost give a holistic picture to the listeners listening from your perspective. What type of artist are you? What type of music or sound do you produce? And where can they find that music? Maybe they want to quickly pause the episode and go listen to a song and then come back and catch on with the conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So I am a vocalist and a rapper. When I'm singing, I make mostly R&B, alternative R&B type vibe. Music. That's kind of my sound. And then when I'm rapping, I rap on usual rap beats, trap beats, lo-fi beats, boom bap beats, pretty much within the R&B and hip hop genre and the alternative side of it. That's primarily what I've been making. That's what I've been exploring. That's what I've been trying to find how I can do it. And leave my influence in those particular genres. And then if you're looking for me, my artist name is Sandrahhh with 3 H's across all platforms, all DSPs, YouTube, wherever you're looking for me, Sandrahhh with 3 H's. That's where you can go pause. Quickly go type that in and give me a list.
Nice. And I think we mentioned this previously as well, but when we set up this recording and Alfie sent me the Spotify link to some of your tracks, the first thing that came to mind for me, and it seems like Alfie had the same experience, is that your sound's very international. It's not just because it's predominantly English. It has nothing to do with that. It is more firstly the quality. Then I think the consistency almost, if you listen to different tracks of yours, the sound, the emotion, the feeling you get is very consistent. So it almost speaks to the fact, at least from what I can gauge, it feels like you've already established quite a sound that you feel confident in. But But I do have a question around the rapping. But if you wanna speak a bit to your sound, go for it. But I do want to ask: was rapping something that came later? Because you mentioned, your mom sings, you were singing around the house. Is that something that you only started of late, or as well interested in from very young?
Rap's definitely been something I've always been interested in. I appreciate the hardcore delivery. And when I'd see rappers rapping as a child, my dad loved rap a lot as well. So I've always loved rap. And for me, it just seemed like a way to get out your emotions. Like, yeah, I can sing them out, but I can also just it's like aggressive talking.
Yeah.
It's really a form of
It is
therapy.
therapy, yeah. I can see that.
So, I've also, I guess, just always been someone who knows the songs off by heart, and I'd know these raps off by heart, and I think to myself, well, what if I tried? And so when I was 12, I tried, and I still remember it. And then I put it to bed, and I was like, no, it's cool. Let's just sing. It's okay. And then when I finally got to FTL Studio, and I'd been working with the boys for a while, I just kind of showed them one day. I'm like, guys, let me try something different. And I tried something different. And they were like, okay, what we're not going to do is keep this in the vault. We're not going to pretend like this is something that didn't happen. we're going to elevate this. We're going to push this. And I guess this is kind of like a little secret. I'm going to throw it out there. But my next tape is centered around my ability to rap, because I just feel like the reason why I was also kind of serious about it from my end is I don't know anyone that raps like me. I don't know, especially in this male-dominated market. Rap is, I guess you got your Nicki Minaj's for sure, and they paved the way for girls like me, but I still have yet to hear someone who can rap. So it is a fairly recent thing, and I am exploring it, but it's something that I'm glad I was pushed to.
That's amazing. And so there are a lot of different things out of there that I want to pick apart, but I think the place that I want to start is, so now you've mentioned FTL Radio once, and then you'd also mentioned, when you're speaking about the people who've influenced you, you mentioned a number of people. And so one of the things, in my very limited exposure to the music industry, one of the things that I've seen as an outsider looking in is that one of the things that a lot of artists struggle with is having all of the skills necessary to build an artist around them, because us as the consumer, we really just see like a Spotify link, you click on the link and you play the music, and that's really it. It's like a 5-minute interaction. But when you actually think about how much work goes into making that 2 to 5 minutes of music, you've got the person that makes the beats, you've got the A&R that gets the talent, you've got the actual production, you've got the recording, you've got and then after the song has been made, there's still the distribution, there's the marketing, there's the launching of the project. So there are a lot of different pieces to actually bring a piece of music into the world. So can you maybe talk a little bit about how, pretty much from when you started, maybe you can imagine you're a varsity student just having graduated. Like, how did you go from a person with a dream to actually having what is needed to put a project out, and who is involved in that process for you?
Okay, so I think the inception of it all always starts with the knowledge. You need to know how, and partnered with knowing how is knowing who. So I knew how through the music business, because I know what an A&R does. I don't have a vague idea just because I've heard that word thrown around. I know what that person is supposed to be doing. I know what my booking manager is supposed to be doing when I get one. I know what a technical writer is, etc., etc. So for me, it was formalizing outside of my skill and getting the knowledge. Then when I had the knowledge, I knew where to look. And I guess a lot of people are used to getting opportunities from, job posts. I found FTL on Twitter. They were looking for a vocalist. And by that time, I had already known, the whole, okay, this is what I want. This is what I want for myself these are the type of people I'm trying to work around. And FTL had a solid following. They had quality content, quality mixes, a quality logo, the little things like that I was taught to look for, helped me align myself with people who I know would now let's push this thing further together. And I guess then that's when I met Nash, and he's the founder of FTL. So FTL stands for the Love. And pretty much Nash, I guess like every artist, he studied what he needed to study, then formalized with music. And by the time we met, he was like, look, I'm just learning. I just got out of school, but I have the know-how. I know how to provide ABC 1, 2, 3. What have you got to give? And then we fostered that relationship. And then once Nash could see I was serious and I could see he was serious, we opened up a network of people that just, oh, okay, I know this guy from school. I know so-and-so from, wherever, or my brother knows this guy. And I guess from there, we've just, she made like just a family tree, I guess, of people within our spaces and outside of our spaces as well, who are able to help us, not do everything ourselves. But there's still, I guess, a lot you end up doing yourself as an independent artist, because you spoke about A&R, marketing, distribution. Those tasks are delegated amongst FTL for now. So there are 3 of us. And 2AM, Sia, who also reports, will handle the business side of things, and we'll make proposals, and we'll make the media kit. And okay, now we're sending out the link. It's also good to, social media is awesome. You get to, like you're saying, click on a link, and before you know it, 40 new people have heard your song. So all of that, I guess, like you're saying, it doesn't just happen, but those are necessary components for success that have helped me. And it didn't happen overnight. And it's something that you still constantly have to learn, because trends change, hashtags change. We're living in like constant evolution in this digital era. And I guess it's just best to just keep, like you're saying, networking, branching out, realizing you don't do everything yourself, but whatever it is that you do, knowing how to do it. And also admitting when you can't do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I really liked how you placed emphasis on, knowing how gives you a lot more tools in the pocket to problem solve creatively. Because often we see those two as very different, theory and practical creativity. But there's a lot of truth to that, the power in creativity, in problem solving, in innovating also comes from relying on a lot of stuff you've already learned, and learning is more theory-based as well. I do want to touch on, you did mention you're an independent artist, and you are working more collaboratively with a lot of other music disciplines or people, so to say. How do you, as an independent artist, especially as a vocalist, make sure you have a distinctive sound when you are constantly influenced by people in the music space, working with them, collaborating with them, and they all have their own sound. They all have an idea of what they want to sound like as well.
So I guess it'd be a matter of balance. I trained my voice, and I continuously train my voice, School of YouTube. I will be home alone, or during my gap years when I was home alone, I just sit on the stairs and sing and figure out what it is my voice could and couldn't do. So I wouldn't get in the studio and be surprised that my attempts to sound like someone are not working. So I really cultivated my own voice before I ever stepped in the studio space. And then the other side of that is, so I've established my own sound that way, but it's something that Nash has brought to our minds recently that has really helped me is, I'll get a beat and I'll try somebody else's writing style. And just as a challenge. And some way, somehow, because of that influence, you'll have it there, cool. So you'll borrow from this person while still maintaining your own. It's actually more of a challenge because you're like, okay, how am I going to adopt this style yet still maintain my sadness or my nashness or my 2 a.m.ness, you know? We challenge ourselves through our similarities still. So yes, I am my own artist, but I'll still, okay, let me try that. How did they do that? And then somehow it ends up being my own. So I guess it's a mix of my individuality, but my acknowledgement of others who I still like, who what I wouldn't do. You know, there's some people who I listen to and I'm like, yeah, that's for me personally. But,
That's amazing.
Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
So there's something about that I actually find really interesting. So one of the things I guess that I'm trying to do a little bit more of now is, you know, writing and doing talks, so public speaking type of things. And so when I'm trying to either write on a new topic or work on something that I've been writing about before, I tend to do the same thing. So I might, let's say I'm reading a book on the topic that I'm trying to write about. I'll, in a sense, rewrite the idea that they're describing and sort of see if I can make the same point using their ideas, but using my own words. And what that ends up doing is, although I may not necessarily agree with the idea they're trying to communicate, it sort of helps me to understand like the actual linguistic tools, in a sense, that they're using. And then I can use that when I'm trying to express my own ideas. And I found that it actually helps so much to almost adopt another person's style and be able to not be like dragged away with it, because you get to appreciate it as a creator rather than necessarily just a consumer. So I think it's really interesting that you sort of take that approach to your music. It's crazy how these things overlap, and I guess in some sense they're both different forms of performance. So it in a way it does make sense. So there is one thing that I do want to ask about, because you know, when I speak to most people about the music industry, whether they're in the music industry or not, and I talk to them about, you know, like if they decided they wanted to be a musician, how would they go about it? And I don't know very many people whose first answer is to go and study it. Like either they've got like a cynical view of you know, these tertiary institutions, and it's like, nah, you have to be in the streets and on the ground to really learn how to do this music, and it can't be taught in a classroom. Like, firstly, is that something that you agree with? And then maybe you could tell us a little bit about your experience learning it in a sense in a formal environment.
So I think because music is also tied to culture and I guess certain demographics, people do believe that they should be in the streets thugging it out, you know, no formalizing of any skill. And I used to be that person. Like, why should I do that? I know how to do this. But going to school taught me that you don't know everything. You don't. You don't know everything, and you never know who you're going to meet where you're avoiding to go. There's so many times I've gone to places that I was dragging my feet, and I get there and I meet the most phenomenal people with the most phenomenal ideas, and I'm like, yeah, I needed to be here. And Boston Media Soul Candy was that for me. It was realizing that there are different ways to do this thing, and that music is a community sport. So depriving yourself of like-minded individuals in a place that you could be at every day, like, it's unmatched. I can't put any, I can't numerically give any value to how much I got out of that 1 year.
Sure.
You don't have to go to school for 4 years. I couldn't go to school for 4 years. I was there for not even a year, 8 months. But because I was surrounded by people who were doing the same thing as me, but differently, I woke up every day excited to be in that environment. I usually would skip school. I'd bunk class, but I was in every class on time. It taught me so much more than just what I got there to learn. You know what I mean? So I would encourage people to go to school, and I would encourage them to go to a place where they will be allowed to fully express themselves. Don't rob yourself of that opportunity for the sake of getting it out of their mind. It's not
I think to a sense I can relate to what you say, that you know, when you went to varsity and you saw all these people taking their careers seriously as well, because especially in the line of work that you're in, it's like Alfie mentioned, more common for people to just kind of want to figure it out themselves instead of going to do it formally through an institution, which means if you're there in class, it probably means that you want to be there and you're taking it as a career very seriously. And being surrounded with people who take their work seriously, it's the energy from that. Because firstly, now you can't be a slacker, right? You not, even if you're not competitive, we people pleasers generally as creatives, so we want to make sure we show people our potential, because we also want to see our full potential. So being surrounded by people who take it seriously, it's so motivating and inspiring on that journey.
It is. And I look at some of my classmates now. I've got classmates who are performing at
Crazy.
Same classmates that were in. You know what I mean? Like, don't not go to school. Don't not be surrounded by people who are doing the thing that you're doing and doing it well.
Yeah, no, you're super right. Look, and I think, you know, just to pay credit where it's due, there are those who maybe can't do it in a formal institution, but I think they could still learn from what you're saying. It's the important thing is around surrounding yourself with people who are serious about what they do. And if you can't find that in a learning institution, you may just need to make that your community of friends. Like the people that you hang out with are the ones who are serious about what they're trying to do. And so, like, there was something that you mentioned earlier in this discussion that I thought was specifically interesting and I think relevant to this topic. And it was when you sort of spoke about, or when you first chatted to the guys about like your rapping. You know, I think any sort of creative who shows somebody else their work can recognize that feeling when you've got something that you're kind of proud about, but you still are a little bit hesitant to put it out there in the world, because, like, you know, once you put it out there, it's there for the world to judge. And it's so important to have those people around you who will, as soon as they see something, like, drive you forward, because that, in a sense, your journey as a musician could have been very different if the way they'd reacted to that was, you know, cynical or, like, you know, making fun of you or something. And it's actually nothing to do with your talent. And I think that's another really good reason to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with not only people who are serious, but also people who want the best out of you. Yeah. And I think that's a super important part, especially in the creative industry, not necessarily just music, because also I think when you create something like that, in a sense, it's a part of yourself that you're sharing. And maybe that's something that you can comment on a little bit, that idea of sharing a part of yourself. Like, how do you find you relate with your work during the process and afterwards? Because I find it's a little bit different with every artist. Some refuse to listen to their own music. Others, like, absolutely love it. There's some who don't want to listen during the process and just want to hear the final thing, or some who want to be a part of every single edit. So what's your relationship like with your creative work?
Yeah. I would say it's definitely grown over the years. I never thought I'd be able to do this, and I'll explain why. Like you said, everyone starts out with this dream that they want to be the best, and then it's time to be the best. So you have to write the songs, you have to come up with the concepts, you have to be the persona, you know what I mean? And that takes years of work. I think that was definitely part of my 10,000 hours. I wasn't always this confident. I never used to be able to sing out loud. I never used to be able to write songs. I'd just sing whatever was out there and not delve into my own mind and see what I could produce. Until my gap years and then varsity. So my gap years, I spent time writing to type beats on YouTube and kind of figuring out what my pen could do because I was tired of just singing. And then varsity, at Boston, like class wasn't too long, so it was 2 hours and then we'd all be out. And from there, we were either allowed to sit and practice in class and make beats, or sometimes we just walk over to one of our friends, Rez's, and just sit in a circle and freestyle. And I used to be silent during those freestyles. I'd just be watching all my friends and my classmates. And the beautiful thing, I guess, about a freestyle or a cypher environment is you're allowed to mess up. You're allowed to say a word that doesn't make sense, or, you know, you trip on the beat and then somebody else picks it up, then you pick it up again. So seeing that and watching that was like, okay, so no one is a perfect artist. People are talented artists. There are ways to express yourself that aren't a perfectly written song. And from there, that's, I guess, where I fostered the ability to, okay, I can freestyle. And what if I took it serious? What if I wrote something down? And I guess it grew from there. And then having expressed myself in the varsity environment of just, you know, playful, but also even when we were recording for assignments, I guess, knowing that no one was going to laugh, knowing that even if people did laugh, it was in jest and we move over it and it's not something that's demeaning or, yeah. And once I got comfortable in that environment, I was blessed enough to record at FTL Studio where, again, oh, you missed the note. Cool, let's just run it back. We'll do it again. Oh, why don't you say something like this? Why don't you replace this word like this? I think part of good collaboration or good songwriting is being able to listen to the people that are in the studio when they're telling you to change things, or when they're telling you, you know, why don't you try tweak it like this? And also being that person for other people. Sometimes a lot of new artists come into FTL Studio and sometimes they'll be nervous, and I can see myself in them because I've been there. So part of my knowing also helps the people who, you know, are in the environment that I can also see were once where I was, and then I become that person who, you know, it's just, yeah.
I definitely get you. There's a sort of kind of like giving the next person the hand up because you've kind of been in that situation before. But there was a second part.
And I'm still in that situation.
Yeah, the second part to it is like, are you the type? Do you enjoy listening to your own music? Like, how do you feel about your work once it's out there and it's it's done?
So when my first, my only EP, the one that I have out right now, was released, I didn't listen to it after it released. I couldn't. Because it's a trip to think, okay, now everyone knows my thoughts. Like, now everyone knows pretty much everything because I am telling everything. But I guess a part of it is also, okay, before we release the music, we've been listening to it for, I promise you, a year plus. Or at least that's how it is for me. So sometimes the only reason I won't listen outside of overthinking it is I've just heard this song so many times. And then it feels new. If I come back to it later, then cool. Like, then it feels fresh again. But I did once say, and I think it's a sentiment I hold, that I wish could change. I wish I could consume my music outside of being the creator. Like,
doesn't hit the same way.
Hit the same for me. Not that it's bad, but I just think, because I'll always be listening to it like, yeah, no, this was, I should have done this, or I should have done this. But I'm learning not to consume it like that because then it takes away from the fun of everything. Like, everyone's enjoying my song and I'm there like, no, I should have gone up there. I should have taken that down. I'm trying not to be that person. But I do enjoy listening to my music. I think, especially because we play it all the time when I'm with my friends, they will be like, let's put Sandrahhh on. When we finish recording in studio and we're driving home, let's listen to what we just did. I'll go home and play it for my mom. I do enjoy listening to music.
That's nice to hear. And I think, that I guess that's what's part of the maturing process of being a creative is firstly going back to what you said the environment was in studio, where it's really being able, like exercising your ability to quickly pivot from failure to learning very quickly. So when something doesn't work, pivot quickly, adjust, pivot quickly. And that takes quite a bit of time as we enter our creative journeys to hone in that skill. And then to what you just said as well, part of the maturing process as a creative as well is being able to also detach yourself from your work eventually. Because because it's a part of ourselves, it's precious, right? It's personal, it's precious. And sometimes that means we hold on to it a bit longer than we need to. And we get sick of it, or we just constantly see where we should have improved. And I'm not saying reflection isn't good. It's obviously always good to reflect and see, cool, what can I do better for next time? Yes. But then moving on. Yeah.
And I think Steph, we could probably even relate a little bit with this podcast. I mean, I've maybe listened to like 5 full episodes, and we're on what,
really?
almost 30.
Yeah. Yes. No, I have only listened to 2 of our episodes. Yeah, afterwards. 2. Because sometimes in the beginning, No, I was saying in the beginning, obviously, because we were so focused on the quality of the sound. But then Alfie and I prepare for the episode, we record, and then listening to ourselves as well is not as fun afterwards.
Yeah. It's much more fun being a part of a conversation than listening to one. That's also the other thing for me, because there have been some episodes that I absolutely loved the conversation. I mean, chatting to Katlego Patlane, it was mind blowing, and he can talk. He can really talk.
Yeah.
But then now thinking, would I go back and listen to it again? I'm like, I would rather look for a new story that I'm interested in. I'd rather look at is there somebody else out there that I might want to chat about? Or, was there an aspect that I want to do a little bit more research on that we spoke about? So I don't know. I find it hard to go back and look at my own recordings.
But Alfie, when you were saying that, I actually thought you were referring to the work you and I did together at APSA. Because Alfie and I did a very long project for about 4 months. And then we formulated like a report, so to say, a case study after the project. And it was right after the project finished. We were so sick of it, or at least my experience was, I was so sick of it. I didn't want to speak about it anymore. I didn't want to look at it anymore. But the beauty of giving also yourself like that break, right? So immediately when it's done, not going in and looking for more stuff, like it's done, draw the line. And then now it's been, 7 months going back at it. Firstly, I'm proud. I must say the work we did I'm proud. Yeah. And then I can see small opportunities for improvement, because I'm now also in a position where I'm a bit more de-invested. So it's easier to see opportunities for improvement in a better light, so to say.
That's true.
That's good. That's really good. And like you're saying, giving it that time and going in with a more positive heart during your reflection, not one like, okay, so what did you do wrong? Let's take account. Yeah. You are doing an amazing thing, guys.
Yeah, definitely. Really okay.
I did want to
go for it.
Go ahead, Alfie.
You can go for it.
I wanted to quickly go back to your style. So I mentioned, for both myself and Alfie, when we listened or got exposed to your music at first, it sounded very international, and it's the sound, it's the quality. And then Alfie also shared an article with me, which I read that you also have Kenyan heritage, and now you're in South Africa. So there's a lot of influence. And I only speak two languages, Afrikaans and English. And I just wanted to know, was there an intentional decision to create music in English as opposed to maybe one of the million other languages, or do you only speak English? Yeah.
Yeah, that one is, I'll admit it is a tough question, because growing up first generation, like immigrant child in South Africa,
Same, yeah.
my parents didn't teach me Swahili. I
did.
fully understand it, but I can't speak it. I can't. So I guess in that, though, I do love language, and I do love, I love it beyond writing. I've always loved reading. I've always loved words. I love pronunciation, and playing with English as intricately as I can, because I don't have any other medium to express myself in, I think is what I made my superpower, because it's definitely forever that I can't just, go home and no. And I see other people doing that all the time, and I'm just like, whoa. Like, when you said you only speak two languages, I'm like, I only speak one. You know what I mean? But like, what I can appreciate and what I'm trying to do now, like I mentioned before, is to challenge myself in my writing. And that means outsourcing when I can't, do something. So, for example, Costa Titch, I'm pretty sure didn't grow up at home speaking Zulu. But look at him. Pronunciation on point. He's making songs that boom. He's catering to the masses. And I don't want to leave out people who I could potentially reach because of a language barrier. So I am working with writers now who do speak Vernac and who do speak Swahili to help me incorporate words and phrases in my music that open up my circle of influence, because it'd be such a disservice to myself to not do that, even if it's just the chorus or just the hook. I think it is important. I really think it is important to me personally, but also to how can I put it? Like, Africa is a dance nation. So when I'm making dance songs, I don't want to only be rhyming in English, or, I need them to feel it. I need them to chant the phrase that makes them go wild. We've all seen it. We've seen it with piano. We've seen it with house, gqom, all those different genres where English is not the main medium of delivery, but these songs are rocking, and they're rocking because people are feeling them, because they can relate. So I do primarily write in English because that's the only language I can speak fluently for now.
I like the
but
approach.
Who knows? Maybe on like the follow-up episode in like 10 years, on our reunion episode, I'll be able to.
And I completely understand, you explaining your journey. And I know this can be a sensitive topic to discuss, because firstly, as a woman, women can get criticized a bit more in the light of success. And then women of color even more. And that's kind of where I was, where this question was coming from, trying to think about what your personal experience is, if you've received any criticism as, being a woman of color, being successful, creating an international sound, that you're not being inclusive, so to say, or not doing justice to being South African or Kenyan.
That's the one I hear all the time, is how are you not? Like, why are you not? You're leaving out or my
Exactly.
blackness is then put
Yeah.
into question. Like, oh, so this is, I'm just like, give me a break. I will
Yeah.
come correct. Don't worry. Because it is, like you're saying, Stephen, it's something that is sensitive, but I'm not going to let that stop me from,
Yeah.
maybe this is my chance to learn. This is my chance to eventually delve into my passion for language and explore it outside of the English realm. But I will be the first. English is so fun to play with. I can't, yeah, that's where I love it. It doesn't make me feel like
Yeah.
less of an artist because someone else might have, weird things to project on me because of language. But yeah, I have fun.
Yeah.
I
playing with
appreciate
English.
your honesty of your experience.
And I can relate 100%. Also, first generation immigrant, like don't speak any vernac at all, and I
Yeah.
don't even understand. So like it's a non-starter for me. And I can just every time I say I only speak English, I can just see the disappointment in people's eyes. As if it's like, when I was a kid, I made the choice like, I don't want all of these other languages that are my heritage.
Yeah.
Like, and
me just-
it took a while for me to get used to it, but eventually I kind of just realized like, in a sense, it almost comes from a good place. It's like they want you to be proud of the people that you come from. I guess it's not necessarily a question of that for us, but I do understand it. One thing though that I would like to ask you a little bit about is what do you have in the works? Is there anything that is either coming soon? Is there something that you're working on? I'm pretty keen to hear.
So I just finished up my second project, like I said, 7 tracks of just pure experimentation once again. I realized what I could do with the last tape, and this one was manufactured with that in mind. Once again, very, I want to say, yes, it was planned, but also spontaneously. It's really just something from the heart, as usual. And it is set to drop in August, so very soon. And I'm currently shooting visuals for the songs because I want to play in that arena as well. My last project had a couple of visuals, but mainly lyric videos that I posted on IGTV. So more music videos this time. And it's actually something that's an intentional collaborative effort between me and Nash, so producer at FTL, label head. I pretty much told him, I want you on production, and that's how I want it. I don't want to buy beats from YouTube this time. I want you to shine. Let's shine together. And he brought through the heat. Like, Nash on production is something that I'm just so ready for everyone to hear it because he totally shined. 2 a.m. on the features. He knocked it out the park. And it's something, it's really dear to my heart because I got to do it with my brothers. Like, once again, I'm the only girl on the project, but all my brothers, Kian, Callie, Java, 2 a.m. Nash, they all pull through for me. And it feels like a cute little fun something that I really am excited for everyone to hear.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I'm one of the people who is excited to hear, I think after having heard your first project and the single as well, it's got me interested as to where you're going to take things because, as we sort of mentioned at the beginning, like, you've got a lot of range, both in style and delivery. And so in a sense, it's almost hard to imagine what the next project will be like. So I'm pretty excited for that. So do you guys have a date yet, or is that still in the works?
That's still in the works, but as soon as I have it, I promise you'll know about it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We'll definitely let the audience know.
Thanks, guys.
And then maybe, turning the clock forward a little bit, are there any either people that you'd really like to work with, in the medium to, long term that you're thinking about? Either it's somebody on the path, or there's somebody else who is coming up that you're really interested in doing some work with. Like, what does the future hold? Like, is there anything that you're looking forward to from that perspective?
So I think, yeah, definitely like any artist that's working their way up, I do dream commercial success for myself. I do dream having access to my local favorites, my national favorites, international as well. I want to collaborate with a lot of big names, and it gets really hard to remember all of them when people ask you this question. I don't know if artists ever admit that, but to name names off the top of your head, I immediately forgot everyone. But I'll also say that I'm blessed to work with a lot of talent like myself and different from myself at FTL Radio. Like the emerging R&B girls that I see coming in and out of studio, Kieme, Fence, Unicade. These are people that are just like me, who are, coming up with me, who I'm coming up with, whose journey, that I'm witnessing as well. Like, those are people that I'm also really looking forward to continue working with. Different people that I find in the DMs, different people that I find on SoundCloud. I'm not above reaching out for collaborations as well. Like if I like your work, I'll DM you and be like, hey, do you know? So a lot of different people as well that maybe aren't, also the big names yet, but the people who are pioneering, especially the local industry that I'm working with, that I'm connected to, that I see also doing their thing, I'm coming for them.
Nice.
Nice. All right. Well, I think we are almost coming to the end of the episode. I have 2 last questions for you. The first one, if you had to give someone who's considering stepping into the music space and pursue it as a full-time career some advice, maybe someone who's still in school, so hasn't even considered studying, is there any very important or specific advice you would want to give them?
Okay, I think the first thing that comes to mind is don't be pressured to, how do I put it? Like, it's a very social media centered answer, but don't be pressured to just turn it into a hobby because that's what everyone is doing right now, and you need to be on, the next trending viral video for your. Take your time. It's okay. Figure your stuff out. Just keep it simple. I think there's a lot of pressure because of the constant influx of, oh my gosh, they're posting and I'm not doing anything. I haven't even shown people I can do this. Grow your confidence. Yeah. It's fine. Like, don't feel pressured to do your thing because everyone else is doing their thing, or turn it into a monetized hobby to, be on right now.
Yeah.
You can take your time. That stuff will come. And then secondly, the low days are a real thing. It is sometimes a lonely journey, and I wish I was told that. Like, despite the loving community that I have around me, sometimes you do feel alone and you do feel like, is this even worth it? Should I even be doing this? The answer sometimes will be no, but that loud yes that you feel inside here on the days that there's no here, listen to it. Listen to it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I think a lot of people will be able to resonate with the advice you've given, not just someone in the music space. So thank you for that.
Sure.
And then lastly, besides listening to your music? If, like you said, people want to collaborate with you or just reach out, maybe they want you on another podcast, where can they reach out to you?
So they can reach out to me, like I said, across all social media platforms. It's Sandrahhh, SANDRAHHH, across all social media platforms. My email address is in every bio on my social media platforms, sandrahn.bunjiri@gmail.com. FTL Radio pages on Instagram, ftl.radio or ftl_radio is where you can also get hold of me. If you have my phone number, call me, SMS me. It's really, I'm accessible.
Well, there you guys have it. And to everyone listening, thank you for holding on until now. We will see you soon.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra.